This is our celebration. This is your celebration. I truly believe that every person in this room is ready to take a huge spiritual step. There's not a single person here, and that's just church talk. That's something I really feel, that if we choose in this now moment, we can open the door for something new in our life. But it's that moving from that Good Friday to that Easter. You have to let go of that old story. That old story. You know, last night I was meditating, and in the middle of it, every early morning when I meditate, I do this exercise of taking Jane Hart's Spiritual Power Tools book. How many people have this book? Yeah, it's a wonderful book, and I take it and I start meditating for a while to get the energy going, and then I just open it up and put my finger down, and I do that, whatever that is. I move into that in my meditation. And what came up this morning was the 7 steps. The 7 steps, many of you know, is a way of releasing old energy, old consciousness, forgiveness, whatever. And I thought, well, it's Easter. What am I going to do 7 steps for? What's the purpose of this? But something's been happening in my life recently. I'm making a huge shift in my life. A huge change in my life. Moving into a new room in my life. And what came to me was to take that old self of me up the 7 steps. Have you ever done that? Take a part of yourself and let it go and say goodbye to it. And what symbolized that to me was me at the age of 19. At the age of 19, I was, my parents had told me, don't go hitchhiking around the country in the summer and cut your hair or we won't put you through college. So I said, bye. And I went hitchhiking, and I went to a college in a little farm town that I could afford, and in my life, and I had adventures, which I talk about all that summer, seeing the country. But the experience was truly a point of departure, a point of embarkation for a new aspect, a new part of my life. No longer in the safety, the cocoon of home and parents taking care of you, and it was scary moving into this new consciousness. You ever moved into a new consciousness in your life? It may have been marked by a geographical change or getting a degree and having to work, or I don't know. What was it for you? What was it for you? Well, for me, that was what came up. So I took my old self up the 7 steps because I'm at as important of a shift time as that was. I'm moving into a new something. And you know, you can't embrace the new without letting go of the old, can you? You have to have a Good Friday experience, which is the crossing out of the release of something that's limiting for something new to happen. Now, what is that Good Friday experience? The Good Friday experience was him letting go of everything that he thought he was, all the story of his whole existence, all the possibilities that the personal self could have hoped for, in order to what? To open up to something new, which in that tomb experience, the 3 days in the tomb, was an energizing from within. An energizing from within. Which brings us to this little fella. Or it could be woman. I don't know. Can't tell. What is this? It's a caterpillar. And caterpillars, caterpillars are such interesting little creatures. What do they do? Well, they crawl on the ground. They don't really go very far. They just have one thing they do. They stay on one plane. And your life thus far is staying on one plane. You're staying on one plane. You have the limited life. And if you said to the caterpillar, do you know, that's the right answer. Do you know, caterpillar, you know that you could fly. You could go all over this room. And you don't have to just, eat this stuff. And the caterpillar would go, huh? And would say, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm happy where I'm at. It's good enough. It's good enough. You think right now where you are, it's good enough. It's safe. But no, there's something in you that's calling you out of your complacency and calling you to do something, I don't know. What is it? Something new. It's so funny. I was talking at the first service about Betsy and her new copier. She's got a new copier. She had 5 years of a lease of a copier that she did not like. And now we had a new copier and she loves it. But there's one problem with getting a new car, a new copier, a new something, is that you don't know what all the buttons are. You have to learn them. You have to, and you have a new consciousness. So what happens? What happens when there's a new consciousness? You've got to learn how to do it. There's a poem by my minister when I was a teenager, and I've saved it all these years, and I just want to share it with you. Gwen Norman was her name. I've seen a butterfly. I know what it was once. How easily I say it was a caterpillar yesterday. But if I would just pause to see, what wonder there? Heeding a call, it left the homey branch on which it used to cling, surrendered to the dark, wherein some spark would lift its life from crawl to miracle of wing. So what is this?
Butterfly.
A butterfly.
But it's still a caterpillar?
It's emerging.
It's a butterfly, it's a caterpillar. A butterfly is a caterpillar that is awakened to what it truly is. It's more of itself. When you awaken to who you are, maybe the circumstances of your life may not change. My spiritual teacher once, when I was saying something wasn't changing out here, this isn't changing, she said, it doesn't matter. It may never change, but in it's not changing, you'll change. Have you ever had a circumstance like that? That in order to meet the need of that situation, you had to grow into something that could fly above it. Think about a situation in your life. Think about something that you want to let go of right now in your life. Something that's been limiting you. It could be past, it could be a feeling state or an attitude, I don't know, an addictive behavior, something. But it's going to require something of you. It's going to first require that you want it. You want it, you want to move into this now moment. And then you've got to what? You've got to reach down and draw forth that potential. If you want to be on fire with God, you got to light the fuse. If you want to move into the now, you've got to desire it. Back in October, I came back from the meditation retreat at Jane Hart's in Florida. And I came back with my affirmation, which I've shared many times. I lighten up, I let go, and I move in the now. And the lightening up, she told me was so important. She said, you need to lighten up. And so starting then, it was like somebody flipped the switch. You know what I did last night in the middle of my meditation? At least 2 hours of chuckling. I just sit and chuckle. I laugh. Every time I have a thought, I laugh. Not really at it, I just chuckle. I don't know if you can relate to that at all, but it's really funny. It's really funny, and you say to yourself, oh, the world is difficult. We're trying and we're trying and we're trying, and we don't see any change. In the world just seems to be the same. Maybe not even the same, maybe worse, I don't know. And yet, it's changing. It's changing from within. What happened in the tomb? It was nothing. Nobody from the outside or even from the inside could tell anything was going on. Of all the conditions of life, you say, oh, I want the conditions of life to change so that I can have what I want and be what I want and let my butterfly self out. And you know what? They don't need to change. The conditions of life are not required to change for you to experience this something. It's something that is already innate within you if you choose to experience it. The conditions of life. Don't wait. I love this quote from Eckhart Tolle. He says, you do not need to wait for the world to become sane or somebody else to become conscious for you to become enlightened, because you may wait forever. If you want to become the butterfly doesn't wait for something to happen. It's ready. It moves. You're moving. You're moving. I look at the world around me and I know that it's changing. I know that it's moving. I know the world inside me is moving, and sometimes you don't see any evidence of it. But it reminds me of when I had a chemistry set as a kid. This isn't the days when they let you have chemistry sets, which are totally dangerous. But, they didn't have seatbelts either. So it was like, give the kid a bunch of chemicals. Sure, why not? And one of my favorite experiments, because it was easy, was you got something chloride solution. I don't remember what it was. And then it's clear. And you put it in a beaker. And then you have something called phenolphthalein. Turns out it's the ingredient in X-Lax. But I didn't know that. It's also clear in its solution form, and you're supposed to take it in a dropper and you drop the drops into the beaker of the other chloride solution, and nothing happens. Drop, drop, drop. They're both clear. drop. And about the 12th or 13th drop, boom, it turns into this robin's egg blue. The whole thing just transforms. It reaches critical mass. The world is like that. The Berlin Wall, it came down. How did it come down? It just, all of a sudden, things just happened. It was ready. It was right. The 100th monkey. The circumstances of your life, I believe this, everyone in this room, the circumstances of your life aren't going to have to change for you to do this, and you are open in this now moment to the possibility of something new, of something wonderful. And it will change you, and it is changing you, but you don't see the evidence of it right away. Just keep at it. Just keep moving. Keep doing what you're doing. Your spiritual practices, whatever they are, you read your daily word, you reach out to that person that you would have walked by before, and you offer a hand. You do something that gives the universe, gives your subconscious, gives your whole beingness permission for this something to come forth, for the veil to be torn in the temple and the energy to come rushing out, for that new something, that resurrection to take place. There's a unity minister that I knew in my very first year of ministry. I met him. His name was Donald O'Connor. And he had been very prominent in the early days. He'd been president of Unity and all kinds of things. But when I met him, he was about 80 years old. And his life had been very, very tough. He'd had a lot of difficult experiences. And he kind of looked the part. They put us at random at the ministers' conference. They made us roommates. So we were roommates. I got to know him. He was a very sweet, loving, kind man, but had a sadness about him. The next year, I went back to the same conference, and this man walked up to me with his sunshining face and smiling. He says, "Hi, Greg, it's good to see you again." I said, "Do I know you?" And he said, "Yeah, it's me, Don." "Don? Donald O'Connor." And of course, I'd spent the whole weekend with him the year before, and yeah, I can go unconscious, but still. He looked 20 years younger. The lines were off of his face. He was shining. It was like Jesus walking out of the tomb, and the stone rolls away, and he walks into the sunlight. And he's there, and this light was coming out of his eyes. And he had this joyous lightheartedness. It's like the bubbles in the champagne, It's like this coming up out of him. When I'm meditating and I feel that the chuckling, it was coming right out of him. And I said, "What happened to you? What happened to you?" He says, "This Easter, it was the Easter service. And I was talking to them about this great possibility, this great potential within each one of them. And then I got in touch with it within me. And how I'd been holding myself back, and I'd been stuck in my Good Friday and in my story. And I knew some of the things he'd gone through. And he said, I just decided I was going to let this go right here and right now. And I started sobbing right in front of my congregation. But, they've been with me a number of years, and they stuck by me. They hung in there with me. And I let it out. And then I finally, okay. And then I was able to finish the talk. But nothing's been the same since. It's like everything has changed. I look at the world differently. I show up differently in a completely different way. Now, what would it take to transform a life, to resurrect a life? Well, it's interesting that every cell that was in the caterpillar is in the butterfly. Every cell in Jesus' Good Friday body is there in his Easter body. So does he have the same body? No. It's not a new body. He didn't trade in his old body for a new body. It's a new relationship of the cells with itself. You have a new relationship with yourself. The potential that's always been there comes out. I know this sounds abstract, but think about the butterfly and the caterpillar. The caterpillar, every single cell that was in the caterpillar is in the butterfly, just configured differently in a different relationship. Nothing's added. Somebody said, I used to be different, but now I'm the same. You're the same of your inner self, and it's coming out of you. And you're no longer satisfied. You are no longer satisfied with being stuck in that old consciousness. You're ready to move. I'm ready to move. Together? I'm ready to move. And you just give permission, and then you watch what happens. You watch what happens. Little things start showing up in your life. I feel like I'm ready to embark on a grand adventure in my life. a great change is occurring in my consciousness. And it really requires not taking your temperature all the time, because it's drip, drip, drip. It doesn't look like anything's happening. But you just stay with it. You stay in the now. But you don't try to control it. You don't try to control it. This affirmation that I've worked with since the meditation retreat, I lighten up, I let go, and I move in the now, is actually an abbreviated version of the real affirmation that came to me while I was at the retreat. And the long affirmation is, I lighten up and I let go of personal control, and I move into my Christ consciousness in each and every now moment. I let go of personal control. What's that letting go of? Letting go of having to manage it, having to control it, having to know what's going to happen next. Maybe you don't know where all the buttons are on the copier. Maybe you don't know exactly what these things do on my back. But you move with it, and you move with it. And I think Jesus talked about that when he said to Mary Magdalene, he said, Mary, and she said, oh, teacher. She recognized him finally, because she didn't recognize him. And then he said, don't touch me, because I've not yet ascended. It's like he was in a process. He was in a process. He was trying to get in touch with his wings. He was, don't put your fingerprints on it, which reminds me of that guidance I received about 25 years ago. I was going through a time when there were a lot of fraught difficulties, a lot of things were going on, and I felt like I couldn't control them all, and it was a very dangerous time. I didn't know, big transitions everywhere. And I was in meditation, I was praying about it, and I saw myself coming up out of a swamp, like a kind of a Louisiana swamp with a lot of mud, coming up on the shore, and all the mud just came off of me like I had Teflon on me, and I had none of it on me. And the words came to me, you must believe that this is possible. You must believe that this is possible. And then the words came, don't put your fingerprints on it. Meaning, don't control it. Don't try to make it happen according to your... And everything worked out in amazing ways. I tell these stories, which today's not the day for it, but I've told you the story of what happened, how everything worked out in a beautiful way. But it's you must believe that it's possible. I believe that this is possible. Together, I believe that this is possible. But I won't put my fingerprints on it. Together, but I won't put my fingerprints on it. Don't touch me, for I have not yet ascended. That's what he said. Don't mess with it. Just be with it. Let it move. Let it be. Let it just move with you, and allow yourself to experience it. You know, sometimes the things that you thought were the greatest detriments, the worst things that happen to you, are the things that free you. They free you. I had a friend who was a violin repairman. He was an instrument repairman. And he told me, you know what the greatest day is in any student violinist's life? And I said, what's that? It's the day they break their violin. And I said, wow, how, why? And he said, the violins that students get have unaged green wood. That's why it's so cheap. It's not really good wood. And so they're practicing on this instrument, and inevitably they're going to drop it. And it's because of all the tension that's built up in the green wood that is kind of in a relationship with itself that's kind of wonky. It unglues itself. Something comes off. And then they bring it in. Oh my gosh, it's a tragedy. It's a terrible thing. What are we going to do? Our violin is ruined. And I say, no. Wait till you hear it when I glue it back together. Because all the tension, all the stresses have been released. And so you put it back together now in this new configuration. It's that same idea. It's the same instrument, but it has a new relationship with yourself. You are having a new relationship with yourself. You're coming into your true self. And the world that you see around you, everything is being revealed that needs to be revealed. Everything's being healed that needs to be healed. Drip, drip, drip. It's working. It's working on the level of your consciousness. It's working on the level of the world's consciousness. And these things are happening for a purpose and a reason. All of it hidden underneath. But you don't need to wait for the circumstances to be a certain way for you to feel like it's time for you to move into this new consciousness. You do it now. As Eckhart Tolle said, you might wait forever. You don't have to wait. This is the now moment is all you have. Think about the least the least hospitable environment and circumstance for this resurrection to take place. A dark tomb. I mean, on top of that, he's dead. You can't get worse than that. And how is anything going to come out of this? And that's the quiet, the chrysalis, the something, drip, 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 out of which something is emerging. And it's happening in you and in me. And it's not something that separates people. It's something that brings everybody together. And that's why we're here. And so it's a joyous day. It's an Easter day. And you've got springtime. You know, you've got some crocuses coming up in your garden. And if you don't, we got them back here. And you've got so much celebration, so much to celebrate. I love the story of Melanie Beatty, who wrote Beyond Codependency. How many people have read that book, Beyond Codependency? I love her story about what happened when she had devastation in her life and all she could afford was this one house that had holes in the walls and orange shag rug and no drapes on the windows and no furniture. And she felt just so devastated. She put her daughter to bed and then sit on the orange shag rug and cry herself, just cry to herself every night. And one time she was praying to God and complaining about, oh, poor me, it's terrible. And what came to her so strongly was, why not try gratitude? Why not try gratitude? Okay, well, thank you that we have a house, and thank you for this orange shag rug. And she noticed that the orange shag rug had a little part of it that was kind of lifted up. So she went over, and underneath it, she pulled it up. It came up very easily. Perfect oak floors that didn't even need restoration. All over the house. And then she noticed the next day that there was a trap door overhead, so she pulled it down and went up into the attic. She'd never been up there. There was a chest filled with perfect drapes and curtains that fit every window in the house. And there she was. She'd been giving thanks for the beautiful windows that let in the light. But there she could put that up. And then the next day, there was a neighbor across the street who put out an entire living room set that was exactly perfect for her. It wasn't brand new, but it was in good shape. And she said things just started happening that way. She just started doing gratitude. That's how a resurrection power happens. I don't know if Jesus was in the tomb going, thank you, God, 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 thank you, God. But something had to be happening. And then her career took off with her being a therapist and everything else started to happen. But starting right now, we close our eyes. Starting right now, we give thanks, and we give thanks that there is a resurrecting power, that there is a possibility. We give thanks that we have the capability of releasing, crossing out, and letting go of whatever the Good Friday is for us, the story, the experience, the old self. We make that decision right here and now. And we are willing to move into the sunlight, to move into our new possibility. And we know that the whole universe is supporting us. Tremendous power is being unleashed and released in this now moment. We must believe that this is possible. We do believe that this is possible. We move into this new possibility. It is ours. It is waiting for us. It is our Easter resurrection. And thank you, God. And so it is. And now I want you to take a nice deep breath, and as you let out the air, just move into this now moment. And set down all your pieces of paper and open your hands in your lap and allow yourself to move into this now moment. And remember, Palm Sunday is that lightening up, that energizing of your soul, the desire for something more, something new. To not live your life from that same old place that has no longer served you, but to move up, to lighten up. And we must move through the Good Friday of life, which is the letting go of all that is less, all that no longer serves us, the crossing out of the limitation. So take a moment and reflect on what it is you're growing and moving out from. Take a moment and reflect, what am I letting go of? It could be a limiting thought, a feeling state, a behavior, an attitude, or something in the past. What am I letting go of? What am I releasing? The most important step in letting something go is embracing the new. There is a new something waiting for you. There is a new emerging from within your soul. There's a new awakening in your being. That butterfly self that needs to come out, must come out, can't help but come out. I am opening up into the sunlight as I come into the light. I am that light, that sunlight. I am that great, warm love of God. I am the compassion, the heart, the nurturing love and the peace of mind that I am craving as a soul, even as that struggling caterpillar in the chrysalis is desiring with the whole being to come out, not to stay limited on the ground, but to move into the sky, to move into the beyond, into the air, and to embrace the allness that is. And so I take a moment, in a moment of silence, to reflect on what I'm releasing and letting go of, and embrace the now, to move into the now, my new awakened self. I am letting go of what no longer serves me, that old, stale self that I don't need to hold on to anymore. I am moving into the sunlight, even as Jesus rolled away the stone and moved into the sunlight. I'm moving my whole being into a new possibility. I must believe that this is possible, and I do believe that this is possible. And I activate my soul energy, that Christ light within me, and I celebrate in the sunlight of my soul. And so be it. So it is. Amen. Well, we're going to have our offering, and we're giving in the spirit of Easter resurrection and receiving abundantly. So we're going to take the affirmation, I give in the spirit of Easter resurrection, and I receive abundantly. Together, I give in the spirit of Easter resurrection, and I receive abundantly. And silently. And again aloud together. I give in the spirit of Easter resurrection, and I receive abundantly. And so it is. Amen.